It's been around for well over 15 years. In its infancy, it started as something that everyone enjoyed and was talking about and said, what a great innovation. It connected us to faraway friends, faraway relatives, and was seemingly bringing us closer together. But in the past decade or less, it has caused more division, especially in the United States of America. And some say it's ruining the very fabric of society. We're going to talk about social media, this time on Weiss Thoughts.
It's time for a virtual campfire sit-down with Terry Weiss. Welcome to Weiss Thoughts.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the program. Welcome to Weiss Thoughts. Welcome to our virtual campfire sit-down. I am Terry Weiss, your humbled host, and I am so glad that you decided to spend some of your valuable time with me today. I truly appreciate each and every one of you out there that is listening to the podcast, and I thank you for your continued support. And if you enjoy the podcast, would you do me a small favor? Drop by the website weissthoughts.com, W-Y-C-E, weissthoughts.com, and leave us a rating and review. Or, better yet, if you're listening on your favorite podcast provider, would you drop a review in for us? We'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. And hey, if you want to get in touch with me, it's mail, M-A-I-L, mail at weissthoughts.com. We're going to talk about social media on today's episode of the podcast. This is something that hits near and dear home to me. And as I talked about in the teaser and the opener, what started out as seemingly something wonderful. Everybody was talking. I remember when social media was first really gaining traction about 15 or so years, 15, 20 years ago. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, you've got to try, this new program out here, Facebook, etc., that developed. And when Twitter was in its infancy, and what was the big one actually was back in the day, MySpace. MySpace, at least as far as my memory goes, was one of the big ones out there that really got, I believe, the social media revolution going. And it was a great way for people to connect. You could get in touch with long-lost relatives, long-lost friends, college buddies, people that you grew up with that moved away. It seemed like many of us were flocking to the social media craze and platform in its infancy when it started. And lately, as I was speaking about, it seems like in the past decade or so, it's really now become a point of contention in today's modern society. I mean, we're in the year 2024, for those of us on the digital side of the planet, and look at some of the things and controversies and issues and even harm that social media has done, not only to the youth of this nation and the youth around the world, but even folks that aren't young, the middle-aged, the elderly. Unfortunately, some people have committed suicide from bullying on social media. There's, of course, the fake news things with social media. There's the ability for people to use social media for shaming, for, again, bullying, for propaganda, to organize nefarious things such as violent protests and other things of such a variety. And I know as you're listening to this, some of you out there are shaking your head and saying, yeah, Terry, you're just giving all the bad stuff. Okay, yeah. Social media still continues in some instances to do good. So do you think it is a matter of we've become more aware of the promise and pitfalls of social media? Or are we finally learning some of the ugly secrets behind the hidden door of these social media companies and things they do and things they perpetuate? And some of the, let's just face it, knuckleheads that use it. People have lost their jobs because of social media and posts, some that may have been truthful and some not. Companies have taken a hit in their reputations and customer base and financially because of social media. Again, some information in that realm might have been true or not. So there's a lot to unpack here as we talk about social media, the perils, the promise, and the pitfalls. And when I think back to the beginnings of social media, again, it was things like MySpace. When Facebook came out, it was all the rage. And if you ever watch the Hollywood movie that was made called The Social Network, that was basically telling you that Facebook started as a way for college people to, on campuses and around the country to keep in contact with each other. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg, however you pronounce his name, sorry, Mark, had good intentions when he started. But again, fast forward to the year 2024, and social media has become a haven of propaganda, at least as far as my eyes have seen. Misinformation, disinformation, censorship, a bully pulpit, a bully pulpit for certain groups and individuals to harass and dox and put other people and groups of people down on all sides of the spectrum. I'm not saying one side has or can claim, superiority or higher ground, moral higher ground over others. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to social media. I've seen it destroy lives, both young and old. And it really makes me wonder, there was a special on Netflix not too long ago, a few years back, maybe about 3 years or so ago, maybe a little longer, about how social media uses computer algorithms to keep us scrolling. I mean, we got things now like YouTube Shorts, Facebook Shorts, TikTok, okay, where you're scrolling through those pages, just watching 10, 15, 30-second, 40-second videos, and then it's on to the next. And that computer is feeding you that algorithm, keeping you, mindless scrolling. And I'll admit it, I'm not claiming any moral superiority or high ground with you here on this. I have many a times fallen down the rabbit hole of, scrolling through like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, especially on the social media platforms, just getting a little snippet, and then it feeds you something else based on that. And, you like that, you didn't like that, you stayed on that one. And it's kind of scary. It really is. It's kind of scary how these computers can get into our heads and into our psyche and into our moods and influence our moods and what's going on. It really is kind of scary. Now, it's not all bad. I mean, social media has been good. Social media has led to the development of such websites as like GoFundMe, and brought attention to just causes around the world and things like that, helping people that are stricken with horrible circumstances or horrible diseases or horrible heartbreak and loss, where people can donate either their time or funds to help someone else. So it's not all bad and bleak, my friends. It's not. However, I was having a conversation with a fellow colleague earlier today, as a matter of fact, at the taping of this podcast, and we got on the subject of social media. I'm not sure who brought it up, but one of the points that I brought up was social media, and i.e. the internet, are a tool. And like with any tool, it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. It all depends on what you want to make of it, okay? So we went into a pretty long discussion about that. Just like any tool. I mean, you can have a spoon. A spoon can be used to feed you, dig, in the dirt, stir something, scoop something, etc. Or it can be used to hurt somebody. You can scoop someone's eye out or something. I mean, I'm just being facetious, but you know what I'm saying. Just like an automobile, it can be used for good to get you someplace, transport people in times of emergency, transport you to a vacation. You can see the country in an automobile, drive basically anywhere that your vehicle is able to take you, but it can also be used for more nefarious reasons, like hit and run accidents, driving drunk, things of that nature, car accidents. So like anything, it is a tool. And when used properly, social media can be very beneficial to society as a whole. However, when it is not used properly, used for nefarious, evil things. I say evil. I'll use the word evil. I say evil. I will use the word evil, my friends. When it's used for evil things, this is where we get into trouble and society as a whole gets into trouble and it gets a bad rap. The other thing I think that also influences a lot of social media is advertising. I understand businesses need to make money to stay in business. You got to pay the utilities. You got to pay for the rent. You got to pay your employees that are running a thing. I get that. I understand where you're coming from. That being said, however, the runaway non-proliferation of advertising, and what I mean by that is what's advertised to what age groups or demographics of society, I don't think there's a lot of control in that. It's more like the bigger the budget and that the client is willing to pay to get their advertising out there, for the most part, it's going to be thrown out there for all to view and all to see. And that's the sad thing. That's the sad thing about it with social media. There was just some articles on the internet this week that you can go and research through that good old search engine, Google, with regards to the types of advertisement that is being shown to, young minds on social media, the things they're being fed. And there's a lot to be said for that steady diet of constant psychological bombardment. Because at the end of the day, advertising is psychology. It's a psychological field. And I was talking about this with my voiceover coach here today when we had a session earlier in the day, because as a voiceover artist, I have to interpret scripts. In other words, an advertiser comes to me and says, "Hey, Terry, I've got a 30-second TV spot that I need some voiceover, some narration for." You get the script, you've got to break it down. Who am I on the script? Who am I talking to? Where's the conversation taking place? What's the tone of the conversation? How is it to come across? These are all psychological and emotional choices that I, as a voice actor, voiceover artist, have to make. And when the advertisers write this, or the copywriters write this, and the advertisers pay to have their product or service promoted, it goes into usually the hands of an advertising agency, which then typically assigns a copywriter to write copy or different forms of copy, or a script, as it were. And then it is pushed forward. And there's a lot of psychology, my friends. For those of you not familiar with the business of advertising, there's a lot of psychology that goes into it. A lot of psychology that goes into it. More than even I knew. And I have a broadcast background. Back in the day, went to college for broadcasting and such. And there's even over the past decade or two, there's so much more psychology into it, and studies and data points that they use, because it's about getting the dollar. And it's, believe me, advertising is heavily intertwined with social media. They are designed to keep you on social media. And that brings me up to another topic I wanted to discuss and talk about with social media, good, bad, or indifferent, the perils and the promise here on wise thoughts today. Have you yourself experienced or maybe noticed your children or friends are spending way too much time on social media and missing out on actually living life? I've been guilty of it at times in my life over the past, 5, 6 years. I'm checking out Twitter, or X as it is called now, or checking out YouTube. I guess can we call YouTube a social media platform? I guess so. It's a form of social media. You watch videos and interact and can communicate back and forth by commenting on videos and such, watching content. Facebook, I've found myself going down that rabbit hole. And another thing that me and the colleague I was speaking with earlier today talked about with regards to social media was that what you see, folks, and let me be perfectly clear on this, a great deal of what you see on social media is not reality. Well, what does that mean, Terry? I'm going to tell you. That perfect life that you see a lot of these people that you may know, they may even be friends of yours or friends of friends that you follow, or these influencers that you follow. It's not real life. It is not the day-to-day doldrums, the day-to-day things that you need to do to exist, the job you go to, etc. It is not real life. Please understand that. Please ingrain that into your psyche. Nobody's life is this perfect. And by the same token, I don't think some of these catastrophizers on social media, nobody's life is that much in the toilet. At least I would hope not. What you're seeing are the highlight reels of people's lives. Oh, we went to dinner here. Oh, I'm on vacation. Watch me go down this water slide. Oh, I'm stopping at, the local coffee shop. Oh, I just happened to be walking through the park. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not chastising those of you that post things like that. I've done it, and I do continue to do it here and there on certain social media. By the way, I am on Twitter/X and also Indeed.com and YouTube and Facebook and such. Haven't made a TikTok account yet. I haven't garnered up the strength or the willpower to create a TikTok account. I don't know why, and I don't have an Instagram account either. At least none that I'm aware of under my name. But I do it too. I'll post, hey, we had a great meal here, there, and that. But what I'm talking about and referring to is the people that basically are living in that virtual reality world per se, without the headset at this point. You're living vicariously through others on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. And it can be very destructive for your life. I guess I'm just going to come right out and say it. It can be very destructive for your life. How so, Terry? Oh, please. Enlighten us. All right, I will. If you're ignoring the real world because you are just immersing yourself in social media, here's some of the effects that it can have on you. Mentally, it can stress you out. It can wear you down. It can cause depression, anxiety, panic attacks, just to name a few. High blood pressure, because your cortisone levels will shoot up if you're following posts and getting angry over stuff. Socially, it can cause you to lose relationships, distance yourself from people as you, again, retreat deeper and deeper into that virtual online world instead of being in the present moment in the real one. It can cause a number of physical symptoms like we talked about too earlier, touched on briefly, but it can cause things like weight gain, sedentary, where you don't move. Some words just trip me up. I don't know why. I got to go back to my phonetics and my diction, which is enunciation. like around the ragged rock, the ragged rascal ran. Anyway, where she sells seashells by the seashore. Anyway, it can cause things like depression, we talked about mentally and that, but physically too. The physical symptoms of depression and panic attacks and anxiety cause weight gain because you're sitting on your keister on your phone or your tablet or in front of a computer most of the hours, and you're not getting out and moving. And you're socially isolating yourself, and that in itself can cause physical symptoms of depression, weight gain, a sedentary lifestyle, which can cause all kinds of problems, heart disease, etc. So I guess be mindful of social media. I mean, too much, as my grandparents always used to tell me when they were alive, God rest their souls, Terry, too much of anything is not good for you. And now you say, well, what do you mean? Too much sunshine? Yeah, you can get sunburn. Too much wind? Yeah, you can get windburn. Too much snow? Yeah. Too much rain? Yeah. Too much water? Yeah, you can actually get sick and die, believe it or not, from drinking too much water. I never knew you can drink too much water. I mean, the only way I thought you can get too much water is by drowning. But evidently there is something where you can consume and drink too much water, which is counterproductive. So too much of anything can be bad, and especially when it comes to social media. Here's something I'd propose here as we come close to wrapping things up on this episode of Voice Thoughts today, as we talk about social media, the perils and the promise and the pitfalls. Every once in a while, I would say, and for me, here's what I found that works. About every 90 days, between 60 and 90 days, 2 to 3 months, I take a social media vacation for a week. Oh my God. Perish the thought, Terry. Yeah, I do. I started doing it a couple years back. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's almost like saying, I'm going to go on a diet. It's not easy to do. However, the first couple days are tough. First 48 hours. Because it's like anything. It's an addiction. Okay? It can be an addiction for a lot of people. It's a behavior. It's a formed habit. However, the first time I did it, I found that once I got past that 48-hour mark, I really didn't miss it that much. Honestly, I didn't. I really didn't miss it. A little, I took 7 days. The rest of it, I was more present. I was calmer. I found more things to do. I exercised more, walked more, rode the bike more. I got more accomplished in my professional and personal life. Imagine that. Because I wasn't spending massive amounts of time staring at a screen. I stare enough at a screen, producing this content for you, whether it's in the podcast, doing my voiceover work, audiobook work, narration, stuff like that, videos. I spend enough time staring at a screen. And then in the nighttime, I'd like to watch me a show or two. And maybe, if I get so desired, a binge watch a show or two. But I did find that I got more accomplished in the real world, got chores done around the house, got ahead of chores. The missus had and guys, you'll know what I'm going to say. Sorry, ladies, this is going to sound very probably sexist. The honey-do list. Guys, when you get that day off from work or you figure you got a few days vacation and the wife says, well, honey, I'd like you to do this. Honey, they create what's called a honey-do list. We've all had them. God bless their little beautiful hearts. And we try. But I found, with taking that social media vacation, I got a lot more stuff done. I really did. And by the end of the 7 days, I even stretched it my second time through. I did it like 8 or 9 days because I just was like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I can go back on Twitter now or Facebook or what have you. I was getting used to not being connected and available every minute of my waking hours. And there was a change. There really was. So, give yourself a social media vacation every once in a while. Get in touch. Get to know you again. Whether it's through meditation, riding a bike, taking a walk, connecting with your family and friends and loved ones, through phone calls. an email, a well-written, heartfelt email, a video call, instead of those little blurbs and highlights of your life on social media. Give that a shot. Check it out. See if it'll help you. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but, if you can't do a whole week, start off, try 3 days. I just went full bore with the one, a week is my thing. I know people, though, that do it, like once a month. They'll take 3 days off during the month and not do anything with social media. I guess, there's no one size fits all. So, like they say, your mileage may vary when you buy a car for gas mileage. Try what works for you. If you can get up to that 7-day, great, fantastic. And reconnect with your life. Reconnect with you. Get to know you again. Get to know your family, your husband, your wife, your daughter, your children, your niece, your nephew, your parents, your siblings, your friends. You'll be better for it in the end, my friend. I'll guarantee you that, and so will those around you. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast today. Thanks for listening to White's Thoughts and spending some of your time with me around our virtual campfire. I truly appreciate each and every one of you out there. And drop us a review, will you, on your favorite podcast provider or at the website. If you want to reach out to me, it's mail, M-A-I-L, mail@weissthoughts.com. Don't forget, I got a voiceover website, terryweiss.com, if you need any type of voiceover work, podcast editing, etc., audiobook narration, and more. It's all at terryweiss.com. And like I always say, my friends, to see a change in the world, you have to be that change in the world. It all starts with the person looking back at you in the mirror every morning. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and also be kind to pets. Take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.